Hello the vinyl community and YouTube. I've done a great groove here. I'm going to show a little bit later on what we're listening to. It's time for another vinyl CD update for April. I'm going to turn this magnificent groove down. Vinyl CD update for April it was. And April have been so-so. Been finding records here and there, but not too much. But I feel like that is okay since I'm saving myself for the summer. As I said, I'm going to Gothenburg for a week, and I'm going to hopefully buy some really great stuff there. But most of all, in nearest future, I'm saving it for a trip to Stockholm in mid-May. A couple of weeks. I don't know how much I will be able to film there or buy that much record. I'm there with a friend in a total different errand. But hopefully I will be able to do something. But found some really great stuff here and going to show it. First of all, I'm going to take it in a different order. Usually I take the vinyl singles first, but this time I felt like start with CDs, because let's show what we're listening to. What we're listening to is saxophone player Phillips and an album called Real Swinger from 1988. Been to a flea market that I go once a month, and I've been looking at it every now and then, but hesitating, thinking that it might be not all that good. Now I felt like I want to take a chance and hear what it is. And it was a magnificent finding. Phillips, of course, one of the four brothers of Woody Herman's band from the 40s, late 40s, and here he plays with Howell Alden guitar, and as you could hear in the beginning, Phillips and Howard Alden has a fantastic chemistry and playing so well together. Wayne Wright, rhythm guitar, Dick Hyman piano, Jack Lesberg bass, and Charlie Butch Miles drums. This is a great album, real swinging, and most of the songs is like this, with Alden and Phillips playing really well together. Even if some tracks I feel like it's of course a little bit better when he plays the saxophone instead of the bass clarinet, like in this song right here, Wool Vistu Gaily Star, a Slim Gaylor song. But overall a fantastic, really great relaxing and swinging album. More jazz. It's going to be a whole lot of jazz in this month. This is also more jazz in a really more modern made than I usually buy. Swedish jazz, Stockholm Swing AllStars Take 1. Not all that much famous musicians, as I'm not all familiar with the newer jazz musicians, but it plays a lot of great classics here. Moot and Swing, and as you can see, T for Two, and making Whoopee. And Willow Whip for Me, Undecided. A whole lot of great stuff here, so it's going to be very interesting. I think it's Benny Goodman style. Leaving jazz for a while now. I felt like I wanted a collection of Simon and Garfunkel, and this one was looked very interesting. The Essential Simon and Garfunkel 2 CD set with the best songs, including a whole lot of live recordings. So it's going to be very interesting. Another compilation that I've been looking very much for, that I finally have. I'm looking all over for Stevie Wonder's Devine Collection. Also a double CD set with all of his tracks, hit singles. Really happy to finally have found this magnificent compilation. Also found some genuine 90s soul, in more modern fashion. One of these girl groups that came out in the early mid-90s. You had TLC as the most famous example. Another band that was pretty big in the United States was SWV, Sisters with Voices. This is the album It's About Time, with the most famous song Weak and I'm So Into You, and Right Here. Very interesting 90s soul. Vinyl singles. This one I bought ABC's Tears Are Not Enough from their debut, I think, the classic debut from 1981. The only problem is that it's a duplicate. I realized that I have this one already when I got home, and the quality is just the same both of them, so I guess I had to give this away. This one though I didn't have. This is Taka Boom, the sister of Chaka Khan, and the album and the single Red Hot. I have the single Night Dancing with her before. I have very little with Taka Boom. I have a whole lot more with the sister. And on the B-side, Troubled Waters. But great 70s disco soul. More 70s disco soul. The Peter Jacques Band. I think that Peter Jacques Band is a German band. I'm not too sure about that. But I have a single with them before. And that one was surprisingly good, so I had no problem buying another single with this band. Fly with the Wind and Walking on Music. I think Walking on Music is the main single here. Disco Sensation 1979. Really great and funky disco soul. To be European, very great. We have Toto, St. George and the Dragon from the album Hydra. And on the B-side, A Secret Love, 1979. Yes. Jazz singles. I found Ellingtonia 56. This is a band with Duke Ellington musician led by John Hodges. And not all biggest fan of Ellington's 50s jazz, but Ellington himself is not here due to contractual obligations. He was contracted with another company. And we have John Hodges, Harry Carney, Ray Nance, Lawrence Brown, and a lot of those classic Ellington musicians here playing on their own. Bill Strayhorn is the pianist here instead of Duke Ellington. And playing Nightwalk, Hia, and You Got It Coming. And it's actually really good. They play really good together here, so very interesting. This one was very interesting. I have a whole lot of singles with American musicians playing in Sweden, and I can add another one to that collection with the clarinetist Tony Scott. And Swinging in Sweden is one of the songs, and I Can't Get Started. He plays here with Swedish musician Rune Överman, piano, the father of Clarence Överman, a Roxette producer, Gunnar Jonsson bass, and Egil Johansson drums. It recorded in 1957. Very interesting. So, full-length albums. Starting off with some funky soul. Not not that much soul, funky soul this month. A whole lot of jazz, as I said, as the sun shows his face outside right now. This one didn't look all that great sleeve, and the album was so-so, but I got too curious to leave it behind, so I took it. This is Giorgio Moroder, and From Here to Eternity from 1977, and I had a little mixed luck with Giorgio Moroder's solo albums. I found some good ones, I found some really horrible ones. So it's going to be interesting to see where this lands. Hopefully a whole lot better than his Donna Summer albums that I feel is not all that good. On the other hand, his work with 3 Degrees from the 70s were so amazingly good, so it's going to be very interesting. This one is going to be very interesting, even though the sleeve could have been a little bit better. The Brothers Johnson and Light Up the Night. This is my first Brothers Johnson's album. I've been wanting to discover them for quite some time, since I heard them in the classic soul show Soul Train in a 70s episode. This one is from 1980, and as you can see, it has Quincy Jones written all over also, which makes it even more interesting. So this one I have nothing but high expectations of. This one also looks very interesting. Jarreau. Oops. And We Got By. Interesting here is that I have a lot of Jarreau albums, but all of them are from either the 80s or the 90s. This is the first Jarreau album I have from the 70s, from 1975. So this is by far the oldest Jarreau album I have. So it's going to be very interesting to hear how it sounded like in these early days. Going into some 80s, a couple of 80s albums that I found. Yazoo, I was going to say, but this is Yazoo, and the classic album Upstairs and Eric, containing their two of their most famous songs, Don't Go and Only You. I have this one already in a horrible shape, with without the proper outer sleeve, with only the inner sleeve, and it doesn't look all that good either. But I have it, as I said, it was the only version I had. Now I found myself a much better copy, and as you can see, they're called Jazz here. So this is American release, not American, but it's a Canadian release of this album. So it's very fun to have a version from over the Atlantic Ocean, because here in Europe they called Yazoo, and in America they're called Jazz. Just interesting to have as a synthpop collector, as I am. This one was very interesting. This is Italian disco duo Fun that had some success in 1984. The biggest hit was the song Color My Love. It was a summer hit in 1984 here in Europe. Classic Italo disco, and I don't think I ever seen a full album with this girl group, so it's very interesting. So now it's jazz all the way. Many of you have followed my channels know that I'm very interested in finding jazz records from other countries than the original, the normal ones that we find USA and maybe UK and here in Sweden, Swedish jazz. To find older jazz from other countries, how other countries play the jazz in the classical classic eras from the 30s and 40s and 50s. And here I today actually found a very, very interesting album, Jazz and Hot Dance in Spain. Recordings from 1919 and to 47. This is very, very interesting to hear how our Spanish jazz music sounded like in the old times. We're having interesting names like, pardon now, all of you Spanish talking followers. My Spanish is a little bit rusty. Orchestra Demon Sexteto de Hot. We have Orchestra Gran Casino. Katia Morlands con José Portas y su Quinteto de Hot. And actually there's one familiar name here. The only one we have a couple of famous names. Doc Cheatham is here also. There's some but the most famous name here is of course a recording from 1947 with Don Baez, who plays with a couple of Spanish musicians here. But overall it is just Spanish musicians, and as Spain at that time was not all that connected with the American market, so it's going to be very, very interesting to listen to this. Maynard Ferguson and a big band album called Juice. Haven't been able to listen to many of these, but it looks like 60s and 70s recordings. Great inner sleeve. It's going to be very, very interesting. Some discovering Maynard Ferguson a lot through the years. This one I can take first. This is a very, very... I have three interesting double albums. This is a prestige release of Buck Clayton and Buddy Tate, Kansas City Nights. Buck Clayton, in my opinion, is a very sadly forgotten trumpet player. Played a lot with Count Basie and so on. But he also had some very interesting smaller band sections, and he's a great trumpet player. Always been somewhat of a fan of him. And here he plays with Buddy Tate, Gene Ramey, Musi Alexander, and Gus Johnson, and Sir Charles Thompson, who is fantastic piano player in this album. Double album with some, you can call it Kansas City swing. Count Basie's in small band session might sound like. It's a really, really great, really great jazz album with a whole lot of great swing here. Sounds very, very good. So I'm very, very satisfied with this album. It has recordings from the 70s actually. 1974 to be more precise. Also two other prestige releases with the same artist, double album both of them. Gene Ammons and some series with him that was released called the Gene Ammons Story. This is I think it is the first part, I'm not too sure about that, called the 78 era. It's 1940s recordings. So really, really interesting musicians and songs here. And the final one is also from the same series, Gene Ammons Story. This is called Gentle Jug, and it's recordings from 1961 and 62. nice gatefold. So that was the findings I had for this month. So I'm pretty satisfied. I'm satisfied with the fact that and I also didn't totally overbought myself, and I had also a chance to listen to all my findings. So it's been a great month. So I hope that you have enjoyed my showing of my latest findings. I have promised that I will do some kind of response to James Griffith's ongoing thread about artists changing their style, the musical genre all of a sudden, and what that had led to, and so on. I'm going to do that. I think that will be next, but I also have a whole lot of ongoing stuff, like 10 from 1 from the 90s. I'm also preparing myself for. By the way, you notice that I've been doing a lot of changes in my intro, changed my pictures and so on. So I'm trying to new myself a bit also. So until next time, I hope that you have a really nice week and weekend and whatever you do. So take care, everybody, and so long.